Jimmy Carter, a name synonymous with honesty, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to peace. His journey is one of the most unique and inspiring in American political history. Born and raised in rural Georgia, Carter's journey from peanut farmer to President of the United States is a testament to the enduring spirit of the American dream. His roots, firmly planted in the soil of the American South, instilled in him a deep sense of humility and a profound connection to the common man. Carter entered the White House in 1977, a Washington outsider with a fresh perspective and a fervent desire to restore faith in a nation still reeling from the Watergate scandal. His presidency, however, would be marked by both remarkable achievements and formidable challenges on the world stage. From the triumphs of the Camp David Accords to the agonizing ordeal of the Iranian Hostage Crisis, Carter navigated a turbulent period in global affairs with unwavering resolve. His presidency was defined by a deep-seated belief in the power of diplomacy and a moral imperative to champion human rights. Carter's foreign policy prioritized dialogue, understanding, and a commitment to human dignity above all else. This approach, while lauded by many, also drew criticism from those who favored a more pragmatic, hardline stance on international affairs. Yet Carter remained steadfast in his convictions, believing that true leadership required a commitment to ethical principles. He believed that true peace could only be achieved through mutual respect, empathy, and a willingness to bridge divides. Even after his presidency, Carter continued to work tirelessly for peace and humanitarian causes, earning him the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002. Welcome to enchanting lore where history comes alive. I bet you didn't know how Jimmy Carter's presidency marked a significant departure in American foreign policy. His approach was not just a shift in tactics, but a profound transformation in the very ethos that guided the nation's interactions on the global stage. At the heart of this shift was a profound commitment to human rights. Carter's vision was clear. The United States would no longer prioritize strategic interests over the fundamental rights of individuals. Carter believed that America's moral authority rested not on its military might, but on its unwavering support for freedom, justice, and the inherent dignity of all people. He saw human rights as the bedrock of a just and peaceful world order. Carter made it clear that America would stand as a beacon of hope for the oppressed, a champion for the marginalized, and a vocal critic of regimes that trampled on the fundamental rights of their citizens. His speeches often echoed this sentiment, resonating with people around the world. It led to a reassessment of America's relationships with authoritarian regimes in Latin America, where Carter cut off aid to dictatorships in Argentina, Jorge Rafael Videla, and Chile, Augusto Pinochet. This move was a clear message that the U.S. would not support oppressive regimes. He actively supported the movement to end apartheid in South Africa, imposing sanctions and pressuring the white minority government to embrace racial equality and justice. Carter's stance on apartheid was a significant step in the global fight against racial discrimination. Carter's human rights agenda extended beyond condemning abuses. He sought to create a world where human rights were universally respected and protected. In 1977, President Jimmy Carter and Panamanian leader Omar Torrijos signed the Torrijos-Carter Treaties, a landmark agreement that aimed to transfer control of the Panama Canal from the United States to Panama by the end of the 20th century. This historic agreement marked a significant step in U.S.-Latin American relations and showcased Carter's unwavering commitment to human rights and diplomacy. For decades, the Panama Canal had been a symbol of American engineering prowess and strategic dominance. However, its control by the U.S. had long been a point of contention for Panamanians, who viewed it as a vestige of colonialism and an affront to their sovereignty. Carter recognized that in order to foster genuine goodwill and cooperation in the Americas, it was crucial to address this issue head-on. The Torrijos-Carter Treaties were not just about transferring control of a waterway. They were about rectifying historical grievances and acknowledging the right of a nation to control its own destiny. The negotiation process was fraught with challenges and faced considerable opposition in the U.S. Senate, where critics argued that relinquishing control of the canal would weaken American influence and security. He tirelessly lobbied for support, emphasizing that a peaceful transition of the Canal's control would strengthen rather than undermine America's standing in the world. Ultimately, the treaties were ratified, ensuring that by the end of the 20th century, Panama would assume full control of the canal. The Torrijos-Carter Treaties remain a shining example of how visionary leadership and steadfast commitment to human rights can bridge divides and pave the way for a brighter future. Nowhere was Carter's commitment to peacemaking more evident than in his tireless efforts to resolve the seemingly intractable Arab-Israeli conflict. For decades, this conflict had cast a long shadow over the Middle East, fueling instability, violence, and deep-seated mistrust. Carter, however, saw an opportunity for breakthrough, a chance to break the cycle of animosity and forge a new path towards peaceful coexistence. His efforts culminated in the historic Camp David Accords of 1978. For 13 long days, Carter sequestered himself with Egyptian President Anwar Sadat and Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin at the presidential retreat in Camp David, Maryland. He acted as mediator, confidant, and relentless advocate for peace, urging both sides to overcome decades of suspicion and embrace a future of shared prosperity and security. The resulting agreement, a testament to Carter's diplomatic skill and unwavering perseverance, was a watershed moment in Middle Eastern history. It led to the first-ever peace treaty between Israel and an Arab state, Egypt, formally ending 30 years of war between the two nations. The Accords, while not a comprehensive solution to the broader Arab-Israeli conflict, represented a significant step forward, demonstrating the power of dialogue and the possibility of peace in a region riven by division. The Camp David Accords remain one of Jimmy Carter's most enduring legacies, a symbol of his unwavering commitment to peaceful conflict resolution and his belief in the transformative power of diplomacy. Amidst the turbulent landscape of the late 1970s and Carter's waning popularity domestically, SALT II could never be ratified. This led to the unfolding of another critical facet of Jimmy Carter's foreign policy in the shadows: covert CIA operations in Afghanistan. Carter shifted to an assertive role after the Soviets intervened in the Second Yemenite War and they backed South Yemen. As the Soviet Union expanded its influence, Carter authorized Operation Cyclone, one of the longest and most expensive clandestine operations in CIA history. This initiative aimed to support Afghan Mujahideen fighters resisting the Soviet invasion, marking a significant shift in U.S. foreign policy towards direct involvement in regional conflicts. The covert support, which included funding, training, and arms supplies, was a strategic effort to counter Soviet expansionism. In addition to these covert operations, Carter's presidency also saw renewed aid to Pakistan as part of the Carter Doctrine, which aimed to protect American interests in the Persian Gulf. Pakistani leader Zia-ul-Haq played a crucial role during this period. Despite concerns, Carter largely ignored Pakistan's nuclear program, focusing instead on the geopolitical advantages of the alliance. While the immediate goal was to thwart Soviet advances, these operations laid the groundwork for future complexities and unintended consequences in Afghanistan, influencing the geopolitical landscape for decades to come. Just as Carter celebrated the triumph of Camp David, a monumental achievement in Middle Eastern diplomacy, a crisis erupted in Iran, shaking U.S. foreign policy. The 1979 Iranian Revolution dramatically altered the Middle East. It toppled the U.S.-backed Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini rose to power, promising a new era. The revolution, fueled by religious fervor and anti-American sentiment, spread like wildfire. It sent shockwaves through the Middle East, altering geopolitical dynamics. In November 1979, Iranian militants stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, taking 52 American hostages, dominating headlines for over a year. These hostages became pawns in a larger political game. The crisis, broadcast nightly, gripped the nation's attention. It plunged Carter's presidency into turmoil, testing his leadership. For 444 days, the hostages remained captive, their fate uncertain. They symbolized the limitations of Carter's diplomacy. The crisis highlighted the vulnerability of American influence. Carter faced immense pressure and criticism as he sought a resolution. He refused to give in to the hostage-takers' demands, rejecting terrorism. His administration pursued diplomacy, international pressure, and sanctions. Despite efforts, the crisis remained unresolved, overshadowing his presidency. Economic sanctions had limited immediate effect. Carter's dedication was unwavering, often working late into the night. Yet the crisis dragged on, a reminder of diplomatic challenges. The hostages were released minutes after Reagan was sworn in, marking a bittersweet end to Carter's term. It was a bitter end, overshadowing his other achievements. The crisis became a symbol of his perceived weakness, contributing to his defeat in the 1980 election. Reagan's victory was seen as a mandate for a stronger foreign policy. Carter remained steadfast, prioritizing the lives of the hostages. He met with the hostages and their families, reaffirming his commitment to human rights. Carter's legacy includes his stance against terrorism and dedication to human rights. Amid the turbulence in the Middle East, Jimmy Carter's presidency also marked significant strides in Asia. His administration sought to reshape U.S. relations with China and South Korea, aiming for a more stable and cooperative region. In December 1978, Carter announced the normalization of diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China. This historic move culminated in the establishment of formal ties on January 1, 1979. It was a bold step, signaling a new era in Sino-American relations. The decision was met with mixed reactions, but ultimately paved the way for economic and cultural exchanges that would benefit both nations. Carter's engagement with China was not without its challenges. Balancing relations with Taiwan while fostering ties with Beijing required delicate diplomacy. Yet Carter's commitment to peaceful coexistence and mutual respect laid a foundation that future administrations would build upon. Carter also attempted the swift withdrawal of troops from South Korea, thinking that the men could be better used in Europe. Therefore, Carter's first few orders included the withdrawal of American troops stationed since the Korean War from South Korea, despite the fear of invasion from the north. After strong backlash from Japan, South Korea, and many members of the Congress, he delayed the withdrawal. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment below and let us know your thoughts on Jimmy Carter's presidency. And don't forget to suggest new topics for our future videos.